Okay, they'll start funneling in.
Oh, and they are funneling. Hi, folks. We're excited to be here with everybody today. Our number count is going up here, about 80 people so far. I think we're expecting a little over 200. So we are just going to give it another minute here and till these numbers stop ticking up before we get going. All right. Well, it's 1:01 Central Time and we just hit 1:01 participants. So I feel like that's a good sign that we should go ahead and get started here. I am going to share my screen here. Oh. All right. So hello, everyone. I am Lindsay Thompson. I'm a client success consultant here at Foundant, and I would like to welcome you to our webinar today. And thank you for joining us. Definitely appreciate the time that you're carving out of your day to be here with us for the CommunitySuite Expert Training webinar. Our focus today is on database maintenance. We will be recording the webinar, so if you missed something and you'd like to review it, it'll be posted to YouTube, and you'll also receive an email with a link within 24 hours. A post-webinar survey will pop up automatically as you exit the webinar. This is the expert webinar. This expert webinar series was developed based on your feedback, and we review each of these surveys and greatly appreciate if you can share any thoughts, ideas, or concerns in the survey once the webinar has concluded. For the webinar today, we are using Zoom. We are providing live closed captioning on today's webinar. These are automatic captions and may not capture our presenters' words with 100% accuracy. You may hide or edit your settings by clicking the closed caption icon. We will not be using the raise your hand or chat features today, so please type your questions into the Q&A box, and we will either type a response or answer your questions live. Questions answered into the Q&A box today will be posted along with the answers on a Compass post for today's webinar. Compass is our online social platform, and I'll be dropping a link into the post for your reference. So let me do that here. Here we go. So if you're looking for that Compass link, just dropped it into the chat. There's a couple different viewing options for Zoom during the webinar today. So interacting with the two vertical bars between the presentation and presenters will allow you to size up or down the presenter images, and you can also navigate to the view options to explore other options. These types of webinars are just one way that the client success team here at Foundant is working to ensure that all clients continue to be successful as we lean into our mission of maximizing the impact of the philanthropic community. To learn more about how you can connect with our client success team, just click the blue question mark icon at the bottom of any Foundant site and select the Success Team tab. So today you will be receiving training from myself and my lovely colleague, Marianne Plath, another one of our client success consultants. We're very excited to talk with you about how to help you work smarter, not harder, which is our theme for this quarter when it comes to data maintenance specifically, by creating some custom reports and making some bulk updates in CommunitySuite. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Marianne to cover our learning objectives for today and review a few key terms and resources before we start off our demo.
Thanks, Lindsay. So our webinar today is based on database maintenance, and there are two objectives for our session today. We've all heard the term garbage in, garbage out, and I'm sure everyone kind of rolls your eyes. It's a little cliche, but the truth is that a healthy database really is sort of the foundation upon which you can build your operations. And so if you know how to confirm your data and your configuration and identify and correct any inconsistencies you might have, that will help you operate more efficiently and save time and focus on the really important things that you're trying to achieve. So there are two objectives today. The first is reviewing your data using custom reports, and the second is managing your data using bulk updates. Both of these tools can be applied in many different areas within C-Suite, but today we're going to walk you through two record types that we're going to use. I'm going to talk a little bit about bulk updating and confirming fund records. And Lindsay will discuss how you can use these tools to review and manage profile records. So the first objective is reviewing data using custom reports. We're going to teach you how to look at this data in a meaningful way, and it allows you to quickly see the data that exists as it is now in your system. You can filter and group it in ways that are meaningful to you. And then it's very easy to quickly see if there is missing information or inconsistencies in your configuration. Many organizations also find using these custom reports valuable to confirm their database before they run any major processes, to make sure that everything is just where it needs to be, so that if you run a major job, you don't have to unwind it because you missed a configuration step somewhere. So it just makes you feel a little bit better before hitting go and doing any kind of big changes in your database. So once you've created a custom report to inform you about the current stage of your data, it's possible, maybe likely, that you'll find some things that maybe need to be corrected or are inconsistent. If you do discover that changes need to be made, you can use some bulk updating tools that are available to make those changes, to get that configuration back into alignment with your own internal policies and procedures. You can correct errors in configuration. You can regroup records in bulk, or you can assign new fields or codes to large groups of data to help maybe facilitate new processes or procedures. So if your organization has decided to report on a new variable, you can use these bulk processes to tag all of your records or all of the appropriate records at once. You don't have to go into an enormous database to introduce a new reporting option. I want to just take a moment here to emphasize that bulk updating is very cool magic that you should handle with great care. It's not always easy to reverse bulk updates. And so if you're going to do something that you think maybe is significant, I encourage you to ask questions, practice in your sandbox. Be sure before you hit go that you are isolating only the data you want to update, and be sure before you go in and change any flags or properties of records that you really understand the ramifications of what you're doing. A lot of components in the system are triggers for other things to happen. And so if you turn those on or off indiscriminately, you may have problems downstream. So just talk with your entire team before you make these kind of changes, so that you can become comfortable that you're not subject to what I call the law of unintended consequences. I think we've all been probably caught by that a time or two. So just a word of caution before we go forward. Some key terms and other resources for you all. Custom reports is really a comprehensive reporting option for non-financial information. It allows you to group your data and filter it so that you can really zero in on what it is that you're trying to understand. There are several resources available to you. We have included a few here. There's always Support Hub. You can walk through the reports module on your Foundant courses in your sandbox. There is a content series out on our website that shows, it relates to our current content of working smarter, not harder. I always get that backwards for some reason, but we all want to work smarter, not harder, and database maintenance is really a great way to do that. Before we move on, I just want to make one more comment about custom reports. The filter, default, and custom reports are great tools for looking at your configuration and records, but we highly recommend using financials and the reporting capabilities under the financials section to pull any financial or transaction and balance related data. custom reports will give a few high-level outputs for financials, such as like current balance. But it has to do with the way the system closes at night. Your best numbers, if you're looking for financial data to reconcile, is going to come out of the financial section. So maybe we'll take a moment and see if we have any questions. Says it is hard to hear me. I will try to speak up. Am I talking too quickly?
I was just gonna say, oh, you caught that. So yeah. Can hear you okay on my end.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
use your lecture voice.
Slow.
Oh, come on,
We'll
Marianne.
post all of these resources out on the Compass chat, or I'm sorry, the Compass page that we are having trouble getting out to everyone.
Yeah, Elise dropped it in there.
Did everyone get that? Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. I am going to go ahead and share my screen and just get right into it. So this is the sandbox, and we're going to start on fund records and custom reports. That was our first objective, was using custom reports to view information in a meaningful way. So we'll go right into this reports menu. And I have created a report already called Open Funds Attributes. And this is in the fund section of custom reports. And the idea here is that you can use this tool to group your information and see how your data is configured now. So what I have done is I have filtered by only open funds to see the funds in my database that are open and active right now. And then I've used the available fields over here to choose what we call attributes, which are components of a fund record that will trigger actions to happen or can be used for reporting purposes. Things like, is this an affiliate fund? Is it an agency fund? Is it a donor advised fund? And then what I did is I added the field for fund group name. And if I click on it, you can see that I have grouped the report by fund group name. So what that does is it shows me I have 2 administrative endowments, 3 agency funds, some designated funds, and etc. And I kind of wiped out the sandbox for the demonstration today, so you can see that most of the attributes are set to no, which is probably not necessarily appropriate for what you're trying to accomplish. So as an example, I have a fund group called agency, and there's 3 funds in there, but none of them have the agency flag or attribute turned on. And so quickly I can look at this and see, okay, this is not right. I have administrative endowments. Oh, but I don't have my endowment field. So if you were looking for a field, you can just add it over here. And it will come over into your report in a new column, which you can sort using these coins, or I think some people call them the cheeseburger icons, to move them around. But as another quick example, I have administrative endowments, and I can see that, yes, they are turned on to be endowed. So if you ever find yourself wanting to say, show me all of the funds, or make sure all of my agency funds have this turned on, this is the place where you can do that and quickly identify if anything is inconsistent or inappropriate. So in this example, we've isolated that I have a problem with agency funds. I should have the flag for agency turned on, and I do not. So the next step, once I have used the custom report to identify anything that I need to update or change, is to filter the report to isolate just the records I want to change. So in this case, it's very easy to say, just show me agency funds. Based on my group. So I'll search for group. A side tip, it's always easier to choose the ID field than the name field, because the ID field will allow you check boxes. So you don't have to know exactly what it's called to filter on it. So my fund group is agency. And it confirms that I only return these 3 records that I want to change. Then the next step is to go into your funds screen, choose list open. You can choose list all as well, but bulk updates will not apply to closed funds. So I generally just choose list open. And then from this screen, you're going to do the same thing you did in your custom report to drill down into only the records you want to change. So once again, I filter by a group and show agency funds. Now this is where you kind of take a deep breath and say, these are the records I'm about to change. Is that correct? And then over here under fund actions on the left menu is a bulk edit funds option. Clicking that option will allow you to see all the different fields on funds that you can bulk edit. So in this instance, we want to change the agency attribute. It will give me the 3 funds that I filtered. And at this point, I can click one at a time or all. So if you know just by looking what all of your funds should be, you don't have to necessarily use the filter. They will all come and you can choose one at a time, which ones you would like to select and which ones you would not. But typically filters are what allow you to be confident that you're not missing anything. Go ahead and click update. And I have updated 3 funds. It brings me back to my customers report screen. Typically what I like to do is come back to my custom report that I had already built, refresh it, and confirm that my agency attributes here are now marked yes.
Marianne, we do have a question. Someone is asking, so why do we do the first step? If you can see where, oh, let me repeat that. So why do the first step? So building this custom report, if you can do some of that, you know, updating from the other area, the fund area, what's the importance of building the custom report first?
It has to do with your level of comfort with the data and the software. If you are sure that you know how things are built and how they should be, you could absolutely skip this step. But this is kind of a place where you can see output without too much playing around in your filters screen. And so you can confirm all of the different types. If you take that filter off, and quickly say, before I run this, I'm going to confirm agency and endowed and private. Whereas here, once you filter, you can't see the whole picture. So it's just kind of a zoomed out picture, but you can absolutely accomplish the same thing by going straight into this screen if you're comfortable doing it that way.
Yeah, kind of just like a nice way to spot check.
Right, and you can save this. So I have saved this report as open fund attributes. And if you would like, you know, every quarter, say you run, you close your books, you may want to come back to this parameter and run the same report every quarter. And you can save those things for others in your organization to run as well. Whereas in here, you're just kind of executing changes in real time. So I went through that a little bit quickly, but what I want to do now, if there's not other questions, is I'm going to go ahead and just run through it again from the very beginning to show you how you can build those reports. So we'll create a new fund report. Whenever I create a new custom report, the first thing I look for is the ID of the record type that I am creating the report for. In this case, it's a fund report, and so I always start with Fundant ID. The reason I do that is because this will always give me a linked value that I can use to click into each record. So if I add fund name next, here's my funds, but it's very easy to sort by and scroll by a fund ID. If you didn't put fund name in here and just started putting, let's see, what were we going to demonstrate? Endowed, And so this is a check I might do before I run my distributions annually to make sure that they are all set up correctly and that the results I get are what I'm looking for. Then I want to see distribution type and distribution percent. So I can see that, let's put the name as well. Not all of my funds have a distribution type assigned to them. And I can see that some non-endowed funds have a distribution type set to them. So that might be a red flag that I need to go back and turn that off. If I'm not doing distributions for non-endowed funds, that's not necessary. For the purposes of this demonstration, hypothetically say that we are changing from our standard spending policy to say that any of our donor advised funds are going to use a different distribution type. Maybe my standard spending policy is 4% on an average quarter basis, but any donor advised funds I want to calculate by 5%. And that's a new thing that we're starting. So this would be an opportunity to use these functionalities to update those funds and change that efficiently and quickly. So I will filter for my donor advised funds. And now I can see I have 24 funds that have the fund group donor advised on them. So I'm going to want to confirm that I change 24 records. I'll come back to my fund screen. And this is that part that is a little bit duplicative. But it can bring some comfort when you're making major changes in your database. And see, here are my 24 records. Then again, I go to the left screen, bulk edit funds. Under distribution type. Now you can see that they have spending annual standard annual spending policy. Again, if you wanted to, for some reason, you could go and say, just change the Culver's fund and the Smith fund. But since we already did filters and we know we want to change them all, there's this option to do it in bulk here. Click update, and it confirms I've made updates to 24 funds. Now I just saw a question that says, is there a way to make all of those funds blank? Yes. So we will go back to list open. Filter again based on what I just did. Distribution type. Name. And so this is now I have to remember. I think it contained fixed. Yeah, there they are. There's 24 of them. Now I will go to bulk edit funds. Distribution type. So what I had to do there was I had to come off of the one it was on, and then it gives me the option to choose this blank row up here. And now they're blank again. And as always, and I can come back to my report and refresh and see that now these are all blank. Are there any other questions?
There are a couple more questions for you. One from says, is there a way to just select some specific funds out of the spending policy funds?
Yes, so that is another good place to say, I'm going to go back to my report. And confirm that you're filtering to get what you want. So when we say spending policy funds, I suppose I could filter for those that have track spendable turned on. If I'm lucky, I have some. One.
You got lucky.
I guess
Never
so.
know what you're going to pull up in the demo sandbox.
But it's a good opportunity, I suppose, to show in the other situation where you could go into list all. And so this is just kind of wild, but you can go into fund actions, bulk edit funds, distribution type, and they're all here. And so if you wanted to, if I know that I want Pancake House and the Smith Charitable Fund, I can do that and see them all, but it's a little bit risky not filtering first, because then it's just more opportunity for mistakes. But you always have that option to go through and pick and choose which ones you would like to change.
All right, another question for you. Is there a difference between making bulk edits from the custom reports page using fund actions versus going to the entire fund list and filtering?
No.
So
you're accomplishing the same thing. It's just a matter of what you're comfortable with and confirming what you're doing. It's kind of like measure twice, cut once.
And the other question, can you also explain the track spendable function?
Sure. A good way to, if you're looking at, let's go back to my report that said attributes. And here are all these columns, and you're like, what do these mean? And what do these things do? A good way to look is to go into a fund record and use these smart tips. So in any fund record, if I go to track spendable, you can come over this smart tip and it says, CommunitySuite will track the spendable balance of the fund. So if you have a fund that is not endowed and does not have any spendable balance, the whole thing is spendable at any time, then you would just turn this off. If you do want to track a spendable balance, you would turn it on. And then there are some other configuration things that you want to make sure are set up for track spendable. You'll want it to have a distribution type, and etc. So those are exactly the kind of configuration questions you're going to want to answer as you're looking at how things work to confirm in your reports that I want to make sure anything that has track spendable turned on also has a distribution policy. So you can build a report to filter for anything with track spendable on, make distribution policy one of your outputs, and you'll quickly see if there's anything blank or inappropriate in there that needs to be fixed.
I think you just touched on this, Marianne, but we had a question that said, is it possible to confirm if track spendable is checked for all funds with a spendable amount? So would that be pulling in track spendable?
You can,
Is there a field?
and this is kind of that fuzzy area where I would just, track spendable balance is something you really ought to pull from a financial report, but to sort of quick spot check it, you could say, show me track spendable.
Marianne, I think I just accidentally muted you trying to unmute myself. I think the question was, is it possible to confirm if track spendable is checked? Is that different? Okay, that's what I meant. Yep. Okay. Just wanted to clarify that, make sure I didn't steer you in the wrong way.
So, I mean, I've got a lot of other stuff in here because I'm just kind of winging it, but you can see these funds have a spendable balance, but track spendable is not on. So that also is something that might be inconsistent with what you're trying to accomplish, and is exactly the kind of thing that you would want to filter for and review and say, what's going on here? Is this really how I want this to be? And it's not, but this is the sample database that we, just kind of cleared out for demonstration. But alternatively, if we had track spendable on and no spendable balance, that might be fine because we haven't run spendables, or it might mean they've run out of spendable. So, there's all kinds of different situations that can apply, but this is a quick and easy way to sort of get a look and say, does this make sense? Are things where they need to be?
Were you just looking at the question in the chat from Michelle?
Did the ability to bulk edit a number of items
Yeah.
at the same time go away? Do you now have to open each item you want to update?
Yeah, I was struggling with that one a little bit too. Michelle, we might need to follow up with you separately and get some more clarification on exactly like where at you were talking about. So I will make a note of that. Sorry that we don't have an answer for you on the spot. We just need a little bit more information on that one.
I think I do know what she's talking about.
Marianne to the rescue.
I think it did. There, a long time ago, there was a screen for bulk edit funds that would have all of the columns kind of like this. And you would see all of those checkboxes and be able to say agency on, done. Staff off, done. I think that went away because there were some problems with some maybe reckless bulk updating. So I think they did that to make it a little bit more intentional to go in and make sure that you're being mindful about changes that you're making, because they can be difficult to unwind. Something we check for before fund statements is the fund statement type is on for all funds that reach statements because they will get the default fund template. That's exactly right, Sally. That's exactly what this is for. So all of those kind of attributes or groupings that you'll see if you go into bulk edit funds are sort of grouped by things that make sense. So if you wanted to, you could say, I want to build a report so I can confirm statement information before I send my statements out. You would just build that report the way we talked about, and your output maybe would be these things. And then you would be able to identify quickly which ones have the bad format or don't have statements turned on and maybe should. And so some organizations that do database maintenance on a regular basis, Sally, maybe that's you, I appreciate you chiming in, will create reports for each of these sort of sections just to confirm before they do things. Are my admin fees set up right before I run this process? So I hope that was helpful. I'm going to go ahead now and turn it over to Lindsay so she can talk about how you can do the same sort of great, wonderful database magic with Profile.
Right, let me share my screen. Just a second here. Too many things up in the background, folks. All right, so focusing on the profile side of custom reporting and kind of doing some book updates in that way. So, oops, see, I'm already thinking profiles and hopping into profiles, getting a little click happy today. Going to go into the reports area. And I'm actually going to create mine from scratch just because there's a handful of fields that we're going to pull in. And so I'm just going to kind of throw the building blocks in there as well. Very similar to how Mary Ann had mentioned that you always want to make sure that you're pulling in that ID, which allows you to do some of those bulk actions. This is going to be a profile profile custom report. So I also want to make sure I'm bringing in some type of name information just to verify the data. I am also going to throw in here profile type because I'm going to demo how to make some changes from profile type to philanthropic interest and just kind of using some bulk actions that are available within custom reporting to kind of make some updates to your data. So I'm going to pull in profile type name, and I'm also going to pull in, so I want philanthropic interest. Okay, so all I did was pull in a couple of fields here, so we have some data to work with. And so I brought in profile ID, again, allowing us to do those bulk actions, profile name, profile type, because that is where the current field is living. And I brought in philanthropic interest because this is where I want information to live once we're done with this bulk update. So kind of how Marianne was mentioning that it's nice to have the columns in here. Even sometimes if you're filtering on certain things, just to verify the data, it's sometimes helpful to bring those columns in as kind of like a double check. So my goal here is recently my foundation decided that we wanted to start tracking philanthropic interests, maybe in a new area. For purposes of today, I'm going to say, maybe we didn't break out education as a previous philanthropic interest or grant type, but now we have designated that, that's a priority area. And we want to be tracking that. So from here, I've noticed that I have a couple different profile types with this that are connected to the school district in the area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter on this profile type name to pull in all those profiles that are associated with that local school district. And to do that, I'm going to click filter. And I'm going to do profile type ID. Again, like Mary Ann mentioned, a super helpful tip, the ones with ID are going to allow you to search or select a checkbox. And I'm going to pull in, some of you are going to have a really long list here. So that's where that search box is going to come in handy. For those of you who maybe don't have as many profile types, the checkboxes is a nice option. So basically it came in here. I can see that all of my profiles with this district connected to it have pulled in, so a total of 78 records. And now I want to make sure that they get this philanthropic interest type added to their profile as well. So because I pulled this profile ID in, on the sidebar here, you have all of these bulk options. You can access these from filtered lists as well, like a profiled filtered list in the profile area. The benefit of doing this in custom reports is, like Marianne was mentioning, you can pull in a lot more columns, move the data around just to kind of do some of the spot checking. So obviously we can see my philanthropic interests currently are blank, but I'm actually going to add a philanthropic interest area. These are what we call user-defined fields. They are populated by you in the system, so you can change these as needed, add as needed. But I want to add and make sure that all of my folks connected with the district have this education philanthropic interest connected to their profiles. So it's just asking me, are you sure you want to connect these this education philanthropic interest to 78 profiles? And I'm going to say yes. So again, just as that cross check, I'm able to see that all of the district profiles for that profile type now are reflected with that philanthropic interest in this other area. So just a quick way to kind of segment your data and add some additional information if you're deciding that maybe you're making some changes to your data. With the beginning of the year, we have a lot of folks who are focusing on data cleanup. So we're seeing a need for either adding additional profile types, which you can do from the sidebar where it says add profile type, delete profile type, segmenting your list and, adding those additional options from the side here. So I definitely encourage you, if you aren't familiar with these bulk actions, to hop in and take a look to see what is available to you. Again, that philanthropic interest was an option, as well as profile type. So that will allow you to, again, once you segment that list, you can add, multiple filters in here. You also have the ability to bring in a grouping of custom IDs, so like a bunch of profile IDs through an import, and then use some bulk actions over here. We have some resources on that in the support hub, but for purposes of today, just trying to keep it simple, but just so you're aware that that's an option if you are able to pull in a list of just profile IDs that you want to complete any of these sidebar bulk actions to, you can do that as well. And that actually lives, if we're in this profile area here, I think it's back one more step. But just to stay on this screen, just check it in. Marianne, do we have any questions?
There are two questions. Can more than one philanthropic interest be applied to a single profile?
Yes. And also these philanthropic interests can be applied to a regular like an individual profile, a fund, I believe, a grantee, so like an actual grant, a grantee, or organization or household profile. So they can live in a lot of different areas in the system. And again, you can update those just to show you quickly where those live. That's found under what we call grant types. And then if you click into there, you can create types from there. There's also some ability to, do some archiving and merging of old and reassigning of old types in there as well.
Okay, there's one more question, Lindsay. Is there a way to upload a list of profile IDs and use that as the criteria for profiles to bulk update?
Yeah, that was the other area. Let me get back to that. So going into reports. So this is just the main page of custom reports. You do have the option to upload IDs right here, which is what I was kind of referencing. So we have some articles in the support hub on that. And so yes, if you cannot seem to filter in a list that's manageable for you, or you're trying to bring in maybe something that has a profile type and something that has an org role, you can download those and bring in just a list of the profile IDs. So if I click on this, it is gonna give us some just like basic information in here, what type. You can either do profile IDs or fund IDs. Those are the two that are currently available. And there's some information on here on how to do that. And then again, there's more robust resources in the support hub. But basically, if you can't filter or kind of get your list to a manageable, just by pulling in filters and kind of doing it in a custom report, if all else fails, you can kind of just bring in all of those profile IDs and then use that sidebar to do your bulk actions. So hopefully that answers that question.
I think we're good to continue.
Awesome. All right, so one other, of course, I didn't save mine before I navigated away. So I'm going to throw those fields back in here real quick and demo another way to apply some bulk actions to a set of profiles in the system. So also profile type again. So the goal with this one is I have some board members that we've previously been tracking on profile type. And so I've decided that I want to now move those to the org role, which has the added benefit of marking whether that org role is active or inactive. Also some dates associated with the term of when the individual is connected to an org. So just decided that's a little bit more robust information than just having that profile type living on the system or living on the profile. So I'm also going to add name. And in this instance, again, I had said board member. So same thing, going back up here, grabbing my filter option on that profile type ID. I'm going to grab my board members. And org role name here is currently blank. So I'm actually going to go to my profile actions over here. Little disclaimer, just making sure that the organization is existing in your system. I've seen this used from a foundation level. So working on your own board members, but I've also seen organizations who maybe request board member lists for their grantees and actually use that information in C-Suite. So moving that over and then linking those board members in the system as well. So that might be an option if you had those profiles that were kind of just living in the system and you needed to attach that org role. But in this instance, because we have that profile type name, we can filter this list and add that org role. So on the left sidebar there, select org role, it's going to ask us to add a little bit more information. So selecting my organization, which is the Hike Right Foundation for this example, and then selecting my org role. So again, org role is very similar to profile type in that you can determine, those are user defined fields, what those org roles are. So these were created previously, so I know that I want that the board member role. They're connected to the Hike Right Foundation, and I can add a start date if I know it, and mark them as active if I know that they're active. So I'm going to mark this as active, and it's letting me know that this is going to be added to those 9 profiles. And now I can see that that org role name here is board member. And then if I so chose that I didn't want to have that living on the profile type as a profile type anymore, I could come back to that sidebar and actually delete that profile type while I'm in here, because I'm like, I have it under the org role, so it's, you know, not something I really need to capture anymore. Maybe I want to archive that profile type. So I'm actually going to select board member, and this is actually going to remove those 9 profile types from the profiles. And so all my list disappeared because this is filtered on board member here. And so now I can see that in my list, still have all the other profile types, and I have my org role name living over here. Yeah, and so the other thing I wanted to mention is because this org role is kind of like a one org to many profiles, the reason that I didn't populate that date is because it may be different for, you know, each of my board members. So if you really wanted to use this list even one step further to make some additional updates now that this is tagged on here, what I could do is come in and filter and do org role ID and select my board member here just to filter this list a little bit more. I could just hop into, like, right click and open these profiles in another tab and come back in and actually update those dates if I wanted to for that board member role. So the other benefit of using these custom reports in this way is you don't always have to be doing the bulk actions right from the sidebar. Sometimes it's just a matter of getting a segmented list so that you can actually look at the data, even if it's not a bulk option, just being able to check the data and then having this list of profile IDs so that you can hop really easily into those records and make changes is also really valuable. So also just something to note, again, if there's, you know, an option you're looking for, but it's not available here, again, at least you can kind of segment your list a little bit and then hop into those profiles individually if needed.
Okay, we have 2 questions. One, I think you may have just touched on, so I'm going to go to that one first. You said, can you update a field in profiles, additional designations like grantees and default grant type?
One more time, in the profile records.
Can you update a field in the profiles additional designation? I'm not sure. They might be asking, like, make the grantee. Can you do that in bulk? Not from what profile designation. Sorry guys, fighting off a cold. Not if it's not available on this bulk action list. Another one that's really commonly asked for is like profile fund category, and currently that's not an option. I am like 99% sure there's probably something in Idea Lab pushing for that. But from what I see in these options, I don't believe that you can do that anywhere else in bulk, unless it lives on one of the grant pages, which I'm not as familiar with the integration piece. So I don't want to say yes or no, but that's something, definitely reach out to us if that's something that you're trying to work on. You can either send that question to support or success, or we can also maybe on that Compass page, try to answer that there too. So thanks for mentioning that. But yeah, there isn't a bulk action for everything. So again, being able to have a list of profile IDs. So like, for example, if you wanted to filter on other information in the system and add that grantee designation or other profile designation, if you can segment your list, then from there you can hop in and kind of make those changes. But I am not aware that there's a bulk action for the designation specifically. With the exception of fund advisor, I think you can. So there are some things I think that we can do and some things that are still being developed, or perhaps again, I think we ran into something earlier where there was a functionality and I think it was dialed back because it was kind of a major change that needed to be a little bit more intentional. There's one more question. It says, can you filter for organization to link all other profiles to a master? Not sure I'm understanding exactly what we're trying to accomplish there. So we might have to reach out and get a little more specifics about that question.
Yes, I think, yes, you can. And there is I can't remember if there, let's go back and look. There is, and we get this question a lot. So maybe I'll do another little video on that, because we get a lot of questions on, actually, let me be smart and actually save this before I run away here. There are some options in here. There's certain fields. Sometimes it's hard to find the names of some of these fields in here, but there definitely is an option to kind of drill down into like the organization and then the org role connected to that. So an instance of that might be really helpful is if, for example, you wanted to see all organizations who had the org role of maybe like program manager and like who that person is. That data is something that you can pull out of C-Suite. So let me go back to the all reports, and I can't remember if it's in the, there is an org role one in here. I can't remember if this one is robust enough. There is also a parent org profile. I'd have to go in there and see. Some of these are a little bit more limited. Yeah, so like this is only giving you certain information, but there is a way to pull a report. It's probably best through, I'm going to guess, I kind of tend to defer to like the profile ones. But if you're using org roles really robustly, and there's information that you're trying to pull in, because again, these only, oh, this one's a little bit better. I would look at the parent org role profile report, because you can pull a lot of data in there. But yeah, you do have the option to do the parent org and then like all the org roles, so that you can kind of see which organization they're actually connected to. So yes, that's also an option. All right. Any other questions?
Don't see anything coming through the Q&A. Does anyone have anything? Felice, I do have a note to reach out to you to see if we can answer that question, that specific question, a little more completely for you.
Awesome. Yeah, so again, all of the information from today's webinar, like all of the Q&A, all that information will get uploaded into that Compass link. Marianne, do you have that handy? Do you want to drop that in again? If you have it.
Take a shot.
And I am going to throw us back to our PowerPoint since our questions are winding down here. So that's all we had for you today. Just kind of giving you a glimpse of some of the bulk actions that you can do. Either in the profiles area, obviously there's some other options, whether you're in donations or funds, there's bulk actions that align with each of those different areas. So definitely if you're looking to dig into some data or do some profile updating or fund updating, and you're curious about learning more, you can always reach out to success@foundant.com. For a speedy response, you can reach out to support@foundant.com if you have an immediate need. Otherwise, Success, we can spend some time kind of drilling into your needs and how to get you some of those answers a little bit more in depth and build something that's custom for you. So again, thank you everyone for joining us today. Post-webinar survey will pop up as you're exiting, so please provide us some feedback, whether it's on today's webinar specifically or ideas for future webinars. And we will continue this conversation in Compass. So anything we didn't address, if there was kind of anything that we came in last minute there, we will make sure to bump those over into the Compass space. And thank you all so much for joining us. And until next time, take care.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone's time. Have a great rest of your day.